afternoon. I'm Arun Malhotra and I will take you through to the year gone by in the auto industry for the last financial year. The last financial year has been a great year for the auto industry. Three major segments, passenger vehicle, tractors and three-wheelers have touched their all-time high. So that's a matter of great happiness and rejoicing. Commercial vehicles, they've also touched a very good number, but still not the all-time highest. As far as two-wheeler goes, there has been a dramatic improvement. It's been a growth of about 14%, but nowhere near the all-time high, and it's a long, long way to go. Two-wheeler exports, which have been one of our star performers in the auto industry, have hit a roadblock because of international economic factors. EV, as far as EV is concerned, there is a growth across segments, major growth, whether it's two-wheelers, whether it's three-wheelers, and whether it is now also passenger vehicles. The other big thing this year has been a spate of regulations by the government based on emissions, based on safety. So if I may call it, taking a cue from a Hindi movie which used to say entertainment, 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 I will call it regulation, regulation, regulation. The government has been very proactive in promoting Make in India, whether it is the production-linked incentive scheme, or whether it's the advanced chemistry sales scheme, or whether it's the FAME 2 policy, or whether it's the state governments. So there is a lot of positive things happening as far as the government's initiatives and interventions in the auto industry is concerned. Let's take the passenger vehicles, which has been the star performer of the auto industry. The passenger vehicles have touched an all-time high figure of 3.9 million, which is a growth of 27% over last year. And the other unique part of this growth has been that if you take in value terms, the growth would be to the extent of 35–36%. Now, where this growth has come, one of the unique points of this growth is a lot of companies in the passenger four-wheeler space have touched their all-time high. Whether it is Maruti, whether it's Hyundai, whether it's Tata Motors, whether it is Mahindra, whether it is MG Motors, or whether it is Kia, they've touched their all-time high numbers. So obviously, momentum across the board, across companies clearly showing. The other interesting thing has been that the UV contribution to the passenger vehicle is growing and has breached the 50% mark for the entire financial year. In the month of March, it was 54%. So that's an interesting sign. And because of this, the average ticket size of the passenger vehicle for the first time has crossed the 10 lakh figure. As far as electric vehicles is concerned, in passenger vehicles, it is still early days, but there are a lot of positive shoots which are clearly visible as far as passenger vehicles is concerned. Let's take a look at the two-wheeler industry. The two-wheeler industry has shown a growth of 14% in this financial year over the previous year, which is creditable, but it is still nowhere near the 21 million mark it achieved in the year 2018 and 19. And industry analysts and experts say that it will at least take 3 to 4 years to touch that particular mark. Clearly, the entry-level two-wheeler, which has been the bugbear or which has been the pain point, which has resulted in the two-wheeler volume stagnating, is still to recover. Because a number of factors at the bottom of the pyramid in the unorganized sector, whether it is the impact of the COVID, the demonetization, the GST, or the e-commerce, they are still being felt. So that is impacting the two-wheeler industry at the entry level, and then the entire price hike because of regulations and insurance. The other challenge in the two-wheeler market has been clearly on the front of exports, which was going very strong because of negative sentiments, developments in countries in Africa, in Asia, and also in South America. The market has gone down. Probably it will take 4 to 5 months for the market to recover. A lot of people say that yes, the two-wheeler sales may be going down in terms of IC engines, but the electric vehicles are compensating for it. But even if you count the entire electric vehicle two-wheelers which are doing well, they don't hardly match up to 65 to 70 lakhs. That will not change the position. So two-wheelers, clearly a challenge area, probably the need to look at for the government to see a rationalization of goods and service tax. As far as the commercial vehicle industry is concerned, the commercial vehicle industry had touched an all-time high of 10 lakhs in the year 2018-19. And the figures for this year are somewhere in the region of 9.7 to 98 lakhs. There's a sharp recovery. The recovery is to the tune of 32%. The recovery is in all the three segments of the commercial vehicles: the light commercial vehicles, the medium commercial vehicles, and the heavy commercial vehicles. And heavy commercial vehicles have done a great job in terms of offtake. 2-3 reasons have been there why the commercial vehicle growth momentum is very positive for the last 3-4 months. One clearly is there was a lot of replacement demand which was in the back burner, which has come to the fore. Second, government has kick-started a lot of initiatives in terms of infrastructure projects, which is helping the commercial vehicle industry to grow. And also, because of the regulations, there will be price hikes in April or May. A large number of sales has also got preponed. But the momentum clearly is positive on commercial vehicles across the board, and it bears good for the future. Now let's look at the tractor industry, which is not generally much in the limelight. But tractor industry has touched its all-time high figure. They've grown 14%, but the 9.4 lakh domestic sales is an all-time record. And if you count the exports, then obviously it is much higher than the 10 lakh figure. So tractors have done well. And if you talk to tractor experts, they highlight 3-4 key reasons why tractors are doing well. One is clearly, for the 4th consecutive year, the monsoon was good, which has helped crops. Second, the MSP prices or the realizable prices by the farmers is going up to the tune of 4 to 10%, and also in some cases even to the tune of 20%. The third element has been that a lot of farmers have been able to export wheat at a price much higher than the MSP price highlighted by the government. And fourth, but not the least, financing, whether by NBFCs, whether by private banks, whether by public sector banks, has been very active. So tractor industry is on a good growth phase. Let's look at the three-wheeler industry. The three-wheeler industry was the one part of the segment which was the most impacted by the COVID, and sales had really gone down. But in the last financial year, they have come back with the momentum. We've seen the three-wheeler, the all-time record, again was in the year 2018-19, which was a figure of 7 lakhs. It is higher than this. But there's a twist to the tail. There is a good recovery as far as the IC engine vehicles are concerned in the three-wheeler segment, but there's a phenomenal volume which is coming out of passenger three-wheelers in the country which are in the EV segment, and that is also contributing nearly 50% of the market. So if you combine the IC engine sales and the sales in electric three-wheelers, the figure crosses the 7 lakh and it is going high. Only one point is, a large segment of the electric three-wheeler is an upgradation from cycle rickshaws. So they call them in the auto rickshaws EVs. So some people don't count it in the real sense of the electric, but having said that, that is electric mobility, maybe on lead acid batteries, but that's a last mile connectivity. It is having a major opportunity. But load segment or the cargo segment is still to go, because 80 to 90% of the sale in the electric three-wheeler is still focused on the passenger. So that's a great opportunity. There are a lot of good companies in this segment which will work on that and make it improve. Now let's look at the electric vehicle industry. The electric vehicle segment has the one which has shown the phenomenal growth. The growth is to the tune of 155% in this financial year vis-a-vis the last financial year. But the major part of the growth is from the two-wheeler segment and the three-wheeler segment. The two-wheeler segment comprises 62% of the volume. The three-wheeler segment comprises about 33%, and there the volumes have grown. As far as the electric two-wheelers is concerned, It had sustained from a figure of 30, 40, 50, 60, and last month was a phenomenal figure of 80,000. So it has crossed a good number, but it's still a long way to go. The two-wheeler electric vehicle penetration is, or I would say the contribution is just 5 to 6% of the entire two-wheeler industry. But if you take three-wheelers, the contribution is already touching 50%. So it's a tale of two cities. And if you stretch it to the passenger vehicle segment, it is still very early days in terms of volume. The contribution of electric passenger vehicles to the entire passenger vehicle segment is hardly between 1.5 to 1.6%. But the positive shoots are visible. The positive shoots are in terms of more players coming into the segment. You find a lot of luxury brands being launched in the last 3-4 months. They may be low volumes, but that's a positive sign. A lot of mass-based companies, whether it's a Mahindra, whether it's a Citroën, whether it's MG Motors, they're also doing a lot of activity. They're launching models. So it bears well. But one thing we must remember, the FAME benefit which is applicable for three-wheelers and two-wheelers is not applicable for passenger vehicles because it is only focused on commercial segment. So that is probably the point which does not make it drive volumes. But having said that, the momentum is positive. The only negative I can see is the FAME 2 policy, which gives a lot of good incentives for customers, is on the last year for the year 2023-24. If it doesn't extend beyond 24, will the EV industry be self-sustainable without government's subsidy? That's $1 million question. I would like to share with you an interesting perspective with regard to domestic sales and export sales across various segments. If you take passenger vehicles, Maruti clearly is the market leader with 40% plus market share. And also in exports, their market share is to the tune of 40% and they're clear leaders. So leader in the domestic sales is also the leader in the export front. But if you come to two-wheelers, the market leader is Hero MotoCorp, but the leader in the export game is Bajaj Auto, which is number 4 in the pecking order as far as domestic sales is concerned. If you go to the tractor industry, Mahindra is clearly the leader in the tractor industry, but the top exporter is Sonalika, which is in the pecking order number 3 to 4 in the domestic market. And if you go to commercial vehicles, Tata Motors is still the leader both in the domestic exports. So a question, how can companies which are much larger can really ramp up exports? It's a great potential because our vehicles are conforming to all the international norms. So that's a great opportunity which is available. Coming to a segment which has been discussed a lot, which is called the pre-owned vehicles or the used cars. There was a lot of activity there, and 1 year back, the noise was that there is not enough stock or not inventory. The demand is very high, which is true to an extent. Still today, there is a heavy demand as far as the SUV vehicles is concerned in the used cars market. But as far as entry-level vehicles are concerned in the passenger vehicles, availability is good. Second, there were a number of high-profile players who from the startup scene who had done major expansions. Somehow their plans have taken to the back seat in one or two companies. One or two companies are still doing well. But the traditional companies which were in the game of used cars, and especially companies which have their own pre-owned segment as part of their portfolio, they continue to do well. GST has been a positive as far as is concerned, as far as used car is concerned, because vehicle movement can happen across states and the tax norm is constant. Used cars clearly is a segment which is becoming more organized. But one learning clearly is a lot of people thought that online is the mode as far as used cars concerned. There is one learning in this year is that used car is more a touch and feel game. The online segment could be used for exploring or probing, but the real action or the real delivery or the real selection happens on the ground. So companies which have a strong online and offline model and have a system whereby they can even source vehicles and even sell vehicles are going to do better. There were two key trends which were talked of in a year, 2 years back, both starting with S. One was scrappage and one was subscription model. Scrappage, the government policy was there. But as far as putting the policy on ground in terms of implementation, in terms of scrappage yards, in terms of support given to vehicles who give their vehicle on scrappage, it is still early days. So a lot of combined focus, whether from industry, whether from the government, whether from the state governments, is required. Subscription or personal leasing, which is a fad or which is quite a practice in the international markets, did start here, but somehow the pride of ownership is still very prevalent in the Indian market, and the subscription model has not made much headway. As far as the personal leasing concerned, the tax laws really don't support it. What the government has done in this year, there are a lot of positives they have done. Clearly, the focus on Make in India in terms of manufacturing and product development, whether it's through the PLI scheme, whether the ACC scheme, whether the FAME2 scheme, and whether through the state government scheme, has been a hallmark. Second, government is also focusing on somehow how we can restrict imports from countries, especially China, and how can we make the same components in this country. So there is a carrot and stick policy working hand in hand. The other is the FAME2 policy. Government has been quite proactive, but number of companies in the two-wheeler segments are under scanner. In case of 2-3 companies, even the FAME benefit has been stopped. So it is fits and starts. That's an area which government is trying to regulate out. As far as the next year goes, there are 2-3 things which are important to do. On the 1st April 2013, 3 regulations have becoming mainstream. The first is the entire regulation which was on real drive emissions, which will cause prices to go up, is applicable. Second is on the flex fuels, and third is on the battery norms in terms of safety, the battery management system, which has become. So as taking a word from Nehru's Tryst with Destiny, at the stroke of midnight on 31st March, 3 regulations come into place. The industry, especially in passenger vehicles, in tractors, in commercial vehicles, have shown a phenomenal growth last year. So the base factor will come into play. And if you talk to experts, they're all talking of single-digit growth. And with the prices going up, how it will behave. How the economy will behave, our domestic economy is good, but a lot of international impacts are there, so that has to be seen. So clearly, these are challenging times, interesting times. I can only say it's a new dawn, but it's a misty dawn. So let's wait how the dawn unfolds. Thank you very much.